Hello Wargamers, and welcome to my discussion of the Fire Warriors as a troop choice for the new Tau Codex. Overall, Fire Warriors are still good. They're still a strong unit. They're going to make up the majority of your troop choices in the new Codex. And yeah, you probably are going to take them no matter what. So let's break down all the options for these guys and what you might want to do with them when you field them. So, Fire Warriors can either be taken in units as low as 6 or as high as 12. Generally, you're going to want to take them in units about 10, just because units of 6 are really easily, picked off. You're going to cause a leadership check almost right away, and units of 12 might be a little excessive. They're not as maneuverable, and so about 10 is probably where you want to be. They still come with pulse rifles, as all these models are modeled with, and they're still ballistic skill 3, so that they'll hit on 4s. A lot of people are hoping for an improved ballistic skill, but alas, they're still ballistic skill 3, so that's why marker lights are important, among other reasons. Different in this edition of the Codex than the prior version, or the one before that even, is that they come stock with photon grenades. You don't have to buy them as an upgrade anymore, they just come with. And I think this is something that a lot of people are going to forget. But these little guys here, these photon grenades, are nice in concept, but can potentially cause some problems for you. Basically, they allow you the benefit of A, having stealth when being shot at within 6 inches. So that's something that a lot of people don't realize they do. If you're being shot at by an enemy within 6 inches, you get stealth. So that's cool. But the problem with that is that no one's going to be shooting at Fire Warriors within 6 inches. If you're shooting at Fire Warriors within 6 inches, the only reason you're doing that is because you think you might not win an assault against Fire Warriors, which is very unlikely. Opponents who are firing at Fire Warriors are probably not thinking 2 steps ahead, largely because if your opponent is firing on your Fire Warriors, that means that A, they're going to have a farther charge range, which, because of the Tau's affinity for Overwatch, is going to be more difficult for them, and B, they're going to be in close combat for a shorter amount of time, which is bad for us as Tau, because when people are in close combat, that's bad for us. So we want close combat to be as short and succinct as possible. We don't want it to be drawn out. We want our Fire Warriors to die when they get in combat, because if the enemy is in close combat, that means that we can't shoot at them, and that's what we do best, is shoot. So photon grenades are nice in the way that they give you stealth within 6 inches, but that's probably not something that's really going to ever happen, and if it does, that's kind of weird. But they also reduce the number. They prevent your opponent from gaining 1 attack for the charge, which, again, not so great, because we want the combat to end quickly. So photon grenades, they're new. They're new as a standard piece of war gear for the Fire Warrior, but honestly, I'd rather have it just be another upgrade that you could buy and have cheaper Fire Warrior stock. But that's not the way it is, and that's just something that we have to keep in mind when deploying and moving our units. Moving on to more of the options, you can take a bonding knife if you can have the unit be bonded, which I discussed in a previous video. The bonding knife, it's a cool thing to include in the models, but it's not really something that you really need to worry about, and I'll talk about that in just a second, because your shas'ui probably is an upgrade you're going to want to take. It's really tempting. It looks like he has all sorts of cool toys that he might want to bring to the party and show off to his buddies, but all those toys can be replicated or you can get those same effects in better ways elsewhere. And so when people take a shas'ui, they generally are thinking that it's a good thing for 3 different reasons. The first one being the leadership. You get +1 leadership if you upgrade to a shas'ui, but a shas'ui is a 10-point upgrade. So this isn't a real big deal if you just have like 1 unit of fire warriors. If you think, hey, for 10 points I can upgrade my fire warriors to have +1 leadership. Yeah, that sounds great. But once you have 4 or 5 units of these guys, once you have 5, you're effectively buying an ethereal, which has leadership 10 and influences everyone within 12 inches. So for the cost of 5 shas'ui, you can buy 1 ethereal and have all sorts of other benefits besides just +1 leadership. And so, A, that makes ethereals really important, but B, it makes shas'ui less important. So that's the one reason why people might take shas'ui, and it's not necessarily that great of a choice. The second reason is that they say, hey, if I take a shas'ui, he can have a drone controller, and I can take some drones. I can take a marker drone, or a gun drone, or maybe even a shield drone, but there's no reason to take any of those drones in a fire warrior unit, in my opinion. Shield drone you're not going to want to take because there's you're buying a wound at a higher price than the wound of a guy in the unit. But B, you're not going to be subject to low AP fire. So the fact that it has an invulnerable save doesn't really bring anything to the table. So you might as well just take a gun drone which has guns and can shoot back and also has the same number of wounds. But a gun drone, yeah, it has guns, but it's still more expensive than another fire warrior unit. So unless your unit is maxed out, which, as I discussed previously, isn't optimal, you probably want to have a unit that's not maxed out. There's no reason to buy a gun drone. Third type of drone, obviously, is a marker light drone. And people say, oh, well, if I have a marker light drone in here, he can marker light stuff with the commander who may or may not have a marker light. Well, yeah, again, you could do that, but wouldn't it just make more sense to spend the points on more Pathfinders or marker light drones in a fast attack slot or somewhere else? It's relatively inefficient to have this one marker light drone in this unit. He's not going to do a whole lot, especially at his ballistic skill. And yeah, so drones really aren't bringing much to the table as an upgrade for Fire Warriors either. Now the third option that people might want to take a shas'ui for is that he can take a marker light himself, a marker light and target lock for an additional 15 points. So in all, if you were to take a shas'ui just for the marker light, that'd be a 25-point marker light. And for that price, you can buy 2 more Pathfinders. So you're paying double for that marker light, and that doesn't make sense to do that either. The only reason you'd want to do that is if you were completely saturated everywhere else in your army and you just had to throw points at something. Then you would buy a marker light for the shas'ui. But really, he's better suited. He's better suited to be just a normal fire warrior with a normal gun that shoots just like everyone else. Because A, this unit should be having benefits from an ethereal if you have him in your army, or like a Shadow Sun or something. There should be someone in your army that provides some sort of benefit to your fire warriors, either in the form of leadership or marker lights or something that is more points efficient than the shas'ui. So to summarize that option for your fire warriors, I wouldn't do it. I don't think it's points efficient, and you can do pretty much all those things better somewhere else. The next option that fire warriors can take are EMP grenades, which are now haywire grenades, which are really cool. Those are the things that several Elder or Dark Elder units have, and they're really scary against vehicles because you roll a die and then you have a glancing or penetrating hit, and that's that. So Haywire itself is good, but it doesn't really synergize with the role that we see Fire Warriors filling, which is long distance, relatively high strength weapon fire from a troop choice, right? Relative to other troop choices, they have a high strength weapon, strength 5, and they are not the guys that should be going up against vehicles. We have so many other options, like hammerheads, like broadsides, that can take out vehicles. Why invest in making someone who isn't supposed to do it capable of potentially harming a vehicle? It doesn't really mesh well. It's not a synergy that works in this unit, as opposed to a lot of the other synergies in the Codex, where you can use supporting fire and benefit from an ethereal's invocation at the same time, like that type of thing. EMP grenades are not in that category, because really EMP vehicles, if they are near your fire warriors, should be dead already from things like broadsides, or your fire warriors probably have more important things to do than throw grenades at the vehicle. Namely, in the case of that vehicle being a transport, the people inside the transport that have now come out and are going to mess you up if you don't do something about it. So, it's cool on paper. Yeah, Haywire is great, but not something that the Fire Warriors should really have. One of the final things that you have to decide making your army list is whether or not you want your Fire Warriors to have pulse rifles or pulse carbines. Like I said earlier, pulse rifles are the mainstay of the Fire Warriors. They're something that you're going to usually take in most of your Fire Warrior units, just plain old pulse rifles, but you could take pulse carbines as well. And the reason why you might want to do this is that you have your guys on a devilfish and you're moving up the field and deploying them. They're not going to be at long range like we like to see with a pulse rifle. They're going to be a relatively short range, and so having that extended double tap range of 18 inches and having pinning as well is something that's going to benefit a Fire Warrior unit in that situation. And so pulse carbines are better suited for mobile units that are embarked in a devilfish. But the bad thing is that they're units that are embarked in a devilfish that are going to be close to the enemy, which is inherent in the situation that I just described, right? If they're close to the enemy is also close to them, and so if you have a unit with pulse carbines, be prepared to be charged. It either has to die or you're going to be charged, unless you run away. But because all units, if they have a standard 6-inch movement and a possible 2d6 charge range, have a potential 18-inch threat bubble. So 18 inches is the range of the pulse carbine, same range as any unit's threat bubble. Be aware of that. If you shoot at something with pulse carbine, you better hope it dies, or that it doesn't care that you're there. Now, the final option that you have is whether or not to embark your unit on devilfish. Like I said, the devilfish works well with units that have pulse carbines, but as a whole, the devilfish is still a relatively expensive transport. I take one because it does allow your Fire Warrior units to capture objectives that they're not going to be able to get at otherwise, but it's not something that necessarily I work into my strategy as a whole more than beyond that simple description, right? If I have a unit that needs to get across the board, I'm going to put it in there and I'm going to go over there and take it, and that's all I can really do, because Tau as an army generally lack an ability to have highly mobile scoring units like Eldar jet bikes. They don't have something that's quite that mobile and is able to score. So you have to kind of compromise in this way, that you have a relatively strongly armed troop choice that can fit in this over-costed, potentially relatively expensive transport and get across the board. And so as a whole, devilfish are good for allowing you to do that, but they're not. They are points intensive, and if you have allies that can do the same thing, like Eldar with Eldar jet bikes, you might as well just take one of those. The one benefit of a devilfish over having a unit of jet bikes is that the devilfish can provide mobile cover, so you can have your crisis suits kind of jump behind the devilfish over here, and then jump out over here, and do their jump shoot jump using the devilfish as a mobile line of sight blocker. But yeah, so I generally try to take one. As a whole, strengths and weaknesses of fire warriors, well, they have a long range weapon that's high strength, so that makes them good at anti-infantry. Weaknesses, obviously they're Tau, so they're not going to do well in close combat, so if you are taking carbines or are deploying them in a way that they're going to be in high-risk areas, they are likely to not do so well in close combat. And they have relatively poor ballistic skill. Well, not relatively poor, but there's a lot of arguments for fire warriors having a higher ballistic skill. Their ballistic skill works fine, especially in the presence of marker lights. So that I'm not sure if that's really a weakness or not, but they're not expert marksmen. Let's just say that. As a whole, I would recommend taking them. General rule of thumb: take 1 unit of troops for every 500 points in your army list. So for 1850 list, I try to have at least 4 troop choices. I know that's rounding up to 2,000, but I try to take at least 4 troop choices for an 1850 list, and 3 of those are fire warriors, and they are all with pulse rifles. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more Tau stuff, either reviews or my progress with our army, please like this video or subscribe, and let me know what you think about the fire warrior in this codex as opposed to last codex, or how do you use your fire warriors, what do you equip them with, in the comments below. There's a table of contents in the liner notes, and thank you for watching.